Hello and welcome to my video on paper for colored pencils. Paper can be quite overwhelming for beginners. When you're in the art store or the hobby store or you're looking on Amazon, there are so many choices. It's important to keep in mind that some of these papers are made for other media besides colored pencils, such as watercolor, some for acrylics, charcoal, pastel pencils, pen and ink, and more. And so it's important to have an understanding of the paper that's going to be best for colored pencil. Choosing the best paper can make a very, very big difference in the finished piece. And the first thing to consider is the tooth of the paper. When I say tooth, I mean that some paper has texture, and the texture is known as tooth. It's raised up areas of the paper that make it so that the paper is not perfectly smooth. There is a smooth one I'm going to show you, but the others all have some amount of texture to them. When we layer colored pencils and there's tooth and the paper's not too smooth, it makes it easier to layer and it makes it easier to blend the pencils. There are pieces of artwork that could have anywhere from 5 to 15 or more layers of pencil. So it's important that you have enough tooth so that it will enable you to be able to apply all of those layers and that the paper will still be in good shape. Here's an example of a piece that I did that has some tooth to it. And you can see the white specks coming up here. Some people like that look, some people don't. And I'm going to show you in another video how to make it so these white specks are not as prominent. You can see here on the green leaf where I blended that and took those white specks away. So it's doable. What's nice about the textured paper is that you can kind of have it one way or the other depending on the look that you like, and you have the ability to do as much layering as you want to, which is nice. When you use paper that is very smooth, you cannot add as many layers successfully. On this particular one, this is done on smooth paper, and as you can see, this area, it's harder with a larger area, like with the gumballs, it's not as noticeable. But here where I did a larger area, there are definitely visible pencil strokes. Once again, some people like that look, some people it doesn't bother, and other people want to blend it away and do the best they can to get rid of it. So the smoother paper is harder to layer on because it doesn't have the tooth to accept the layers. This is one that I did on more textured paper. And once again, there was a lot of layering here, but I was able to do it because it had the tooth to it. And that helps, especially for beginners. I felt as a beginner, I needed all the help I could get. So if I was going to use paper that was more conducive to what I wanted to do, then that was really better for me. Here's one more that has some substance to it and some texture. There we go. And that shows the pencil strokes. That could be blended even more if that's a personal preference. So that's that. So these are some of the choices of paper. The first one I'm showing you is called drawing paper, and it's the paper where you get the most for your money. It's made for dry media, and if you read, all of these papers have labels that are very descriptive, and it'll tell you exactly what you're supposed to be able to use with that particular paper. It also gives you the size, the weight, and what they consider to be smooth, medium surface. This 70-pound weight means that this paper is going to be somewhat flexible, but as the description said, it does have a medium surface, so there's going to be some texture to it. This one made by Canson, also a drawing paper. This one is 111 pounds. That means that it has more layers making up the paper, so it's going to be firmer. Not going to be as flexible as the other paper. They're even calling it heavyweight. And it also has texture. Once again, it gets into how much you want to spend, the type of texture you think you want, what your preference is going to be. The other thing to consider with a lot of these papers that are white is that white means many different things. You can see that this white is substantially brighter, the one on the right, than the one on the left. So that's something else to look at. Depending on the light, it can also look a little different. The next one I'm going to show you is the smooth versus the one with more texture. This is the smooth paper. That's exactly what it says. It's quite smooth. Both sides are quite smooth. And this is 100 pounds, so that's going to be heavier. And this is Bristol Smooth. It's a good quality paper if you're looking for smooth. And it's good for if you want to have some detail on there. You don't need to do a lot of layering, but you want some fine lines and detail. Smooth will work very well. And here's the Bristol Vellum, which is the one that has more texture to it. That's become my favorite. And this one also is 100-pound weight, so it's going to have that same feel to it. A little bit firmer than the drawing paper. Almost has a bit of a cardboard feel to it. And when you look at this paper close up, same idea. One side is smoother than the other side. That's the Bristol Vellum. Once again, it's going to be more expensive, but it depends on the look and then your size, of course. If you decide to buy some bigger sheets and you're going to do some smaller drawing, this is a wonderful cutter that I got. I got this at Michael's. It's made by Fiskars. It's got a nice replaceable cutter here, and it's easy to measure the paper. Very handy, very easy to store. I really like that. The other thing about the paper is that colored pencil can be very erasable. And especially if you use the vellum or one that has some texture to it, it erases very nicely as opposed to the smooth. And I'm going to do a video on erasers soon. So that is that for paper. Here's another one that I want to show you. This is interesting. This was from a coloring book, and I decided I like to do these coloring pages, and I really enjoy picking out the colors and working with the different colors. So what I did was I photocopied the coloring book page onto my Bristol Vellum because I felt that it was going to be a much better quality of paper than the paper that came in the coloring book. I'll put the name of the coloring book under the description so that if you have an interest in that, it will be there for you. The other thing I want to say is I've been into this for about 2 years now, and I'm still very much, I believe, a beginner. I'm learning. I'm kind of honing my skills and learning what I like to do best and what excites me and the colors that I get excited about. But there are people in my classes that I take who are artists. They've been artists for decades. Some of them have been using colored pencils for a long time. And some of them are new to colored pencils, but they have a wonderful art background. And there's a woman in class that I approached one day, and I love her work. And I said, "Oh, what kind of paper you're using?" And she said, "Oh, you know, I don't even know. It was something I had laying around the house." And I realized that if you have that innate ability, that artistic innate ability, or you've been doing it for so long that you've learned so much, that you do such beautiful work, it's not going to really matter a lot necessarily the paper you use, unless you're working towards a specific look. But chances are you could do something really pretty on a lot of different types of paper. Whereas with a beginner, I felt when I was first starting out, I needed all the help I could get. And I believed that certain supplies that came recommended as I got educated on supplies could help give me that boost. And so that's why I really delved into the concept of texture and whether I want it or not, and what I'm looking for. And so I'm trying to pass that on to you to save you perhaps some time and money and energy so that you will know where to start. If you are lucky enough to have an art store nearby, it's always nice to go there to support them and also to be able to ask questions, and you know there are people there who will be able to answer some of the questions. Make sure and read your labels. They're very explanatory. I'm looking at this one now on that smooth that I told you about, which you can't use a lot of colored pencil layers, and it specifies finished artwork and it specifies pen and ink. Once again, that is a media that does not take layering. You don't have to be concerned. So once again, the smooth is good for the details and fine lines. And the textured one is better if you're going to do layering and blending. Thank you so much. I hope this has helped, and I look forward to many more videos.